Amara and Urenna had been inseparable since childhood. Everyone in Umofia village knew them as the twins without blood. They shared everything: clothes, secrets, meals, and even dreams. Where you saw one, the other was never far behind. Their mothers used to joke that if marriage were allowed between friends, these two would have married each other long ago. As they grew older, their bond only deepened, and villagers often admired how loyal they were to one another. They planned their future side by side, promising that no matter where life took them, they would stand together. But as they grew into womanhood, life began to show the first cracks in their perfect friendship. Amara blossomed early, full hips, smooth skin, and a warm smile that drew attention like bees to nectar. Suitors came often, bringing gifts, sending elders, and asking for her hand. Yet she politely declined, waiting for the right man. Urenna, on the other hand, though beautiful in her own right, felt invisible next to her friend. Her beauty was quiet, her confidence fragile. And with every praise Amara received, Urenna's envy grew silently like weeds beneath the soil. The day Chak arrived in the village was the beginning of everything. Tall, responsible, hardworking, and respectful, he was the kind of man every girl hoped for. But he only had eyes for Amara. From the moment he greeted her with a shy smile at the stream, the entire village knew wedding bells would soon follow. Chak didn't waste time. He sent his people to Amara's family the following month, bearing wine, yam, clothing, and a bride price that left even the elders nodding in approval. Amara didn't know it, but standing beside her that day, smiling tightly as the elders praised the gifts, Urenna felt something dark twisting in her heart. Something she had never felt before. Something dangerous. Something that would change everything. Urenna stood beside Amara on the day Chak's people officially came to declare their intentions. Everyone in the compound sang praises of the beautiful bride-to-be. The women clapped, the elders nodded, and Amara's mother kept touching her daughter's cheek with proud tears in her eyes. But Urenna's smile was tight, controlled, and hollow. Inside her chest, a quiet storm rumbled. She told herself it wasn't jealousy, no, she convinced herself it was fear. Fear of being left behind. Fear that once Amara married and moved into Chak's home, their bond would fade. But deep down, beneath layers of excuses, envy bloomed like poison. She watched the lavish bride price items, wrappers, jewelry, livestock, and bags of money, and something inside her whispered, "This should have been yours." Urenna didn't understand why she felt that way, but the thought refused to leave her mind. As the elders finalized the acceptance, Chak respectfully knelt before Amara's father in appreciation. Amara stood glowing like the sun, unaware of the shadow forming behind her. Urenna clenched her fist, telling herself she was still happy for her friend, but her heart betrayed her. Each time someone called Amara the lucky one, she felt a sharp sting. That night, while walking home under the moonlight, she imagined what her own bride price ceremony would look like, only for reality to remind her she had no suitor, no gifts, no man waiting. The pain of comparison sank its claws deeper. But what scared her most was not the jealousy itself, it was how natural it felt. How easy it was becoming to resent the very person she once called sister. And in that moment, Urenna unknowingly opened the door to a decision that would later destroy everything Amara trusted. Amara spent the following days glowing with joy. She and Chak planned their future, choosing colors for their traditional attire and deciding which relatives to honor at the wedding. Everyone congratulated her, women touched her hands as if success were contagious. Urenna stayed close, pretending to help with preparations, but every compliment Amara received deepened the bitterness in her chest. She forced smiles, forced laughter, forced excitement, yet her heart felt like a stone sinking into dark water. When Amara wasn't looking, Urenna's eyes lingered on the bride price list pinned to the wall, studying every item. The wealth, the honor, the admiration, she couldn't shake the feeling that the world had handed Amara everything on a silver platter while giving her nothing in return. One evening, After the rehearsals for the traditional music that would play at the ceremony, Amara hugged Urenna tightly and thanked her for being her forever sister. The words pierced Urenna unexpectedly. She felt guilt rising, choking her, but it clashed violently with the envy she had been nurturing. She wondered why life seemed so easy for Amara yet so complicated for her. In an attempt to hide her feelings, Urenna told Amara she needed rest and slipped away. As she walked home, she saw Chike discussing final payments with Amara's father. A pile of money lay on the table, glinting under the lantern light. Something inside Urenna snapped, an idea, bold and reckless, crept into her mind. A dangerous whisper urged her to take what she believed fate had denied her. By the time she reached her doorstep, her decision had taken root. She wasn't just jealous anymore. She was ready to act. The following morning, Amara's compound buzzed with activity. Relatives prepared food, dancers rehearsed, and elders planned the ceremony. Amid the chaos, the bride price items were stored in Amara's father's back hut, awaiting inspection before the final handover. Only trusted family members were allowed near them, except Urenna, whose closeness to Amara granted her access without question. She watched carefully as Amara's father placed the final bag of money inside a wooden chest. "Nobody should touch this till tomorrow," he warned. Urenna nodded obediently, but her mind had already traveled far beyond obedience. That whisper from the previous night returned stronger. "If you take it, nobody will suspect you." Fear battled with desire, yet desire seemed to win every round. Later that day, Amara asked Urenna to accompany her to buy beads from the market. Urenna agreed, but her mind wasn't on the journey. She observed how people greeted Amara with admiration and wondered how it felt to be adored so easily. She imagined how her own family would react if she suddenly returned home with wealth. The thought consumed her. By the time they returned from the market, Urenna had made up her mind completely. That night, when the village slept, she crept into the back hut through the side entrance she knew well. Her heart pounded as she lifted the lid of the chest. For a moment, she hesitated, trembling at the magnitude of her betrayal. But the excitement of having what Amara had overshadowed everything else. She stuffed the money and jewelry into her wrapper and slipped silently into the darkness. Urenna didn't just steal Amara's bride price. She stole the future her best friend had dreamed of. At dawn, Amara woke with joy, ready for the day her life would finally change. She joined her parents in the compound only to find panic spreading like wildfire. Her father shouted instructions, her mother clutched her head in disbelief, and elders paced angrily. The chest had been opened, emptied. The bride price was gone. Amara felt her knees weaken as she approached. "Papa, what happened?" she cried. Her father looked at her with helpless rage. "The bride price, someone took everything." Shock punched the air from her lungs. This wasn't just money. It was the honor of two families, the bond of marriage, and the pride of her lineage. Without it, the marriage could collapse before it even began. News spread quickly across the village. Chike and his family arrived, confused and disappointed. Though they assured Amara they still loved her, the elders insisted that the ceremony could not continue until the matter was resolved. Rumors surfaced instantly, some blamed thieves, others suspected jealous women. Urenna stood among the crowd, pretending to be heartbroken, wiping non-existent tears. She even hugged Amara tightly, whispering, "We will find the person responsible." Her words dripped with guilt, but Amara, blinded by trust, felt comforted. Villagers searched the area and questioned neighbors, but no clues surfaced. The humiliation was unbearable. Amara shut herself inside her room, trembling and praying. Meanwhile, Urenna hid the stolen items in a clay pot beneath her bed, her heart racing every time she heard footsteps. Guilt clawed at her soul, but her envy whispered soothing lies, telling her she deserved everything she had taken. Urenna didn't realize karma had already begun sharpening its claws. The village elders launched a full investigation, calling everyone who had access to the hut. Amara, still devastated, tried to stay strong as people whispered around her. Jack stood by her side, but even he couldn't hide the disappointment clouding his face. Amara feared that his family would call off the marriage entirely. Her mother prayed loudly, asking the ancestors to expose whoever had done this wicked act. Urenna sat beside her, supporting her dramatically, but her hands trembled. Every question the elders asked made her heartbeat quicken. She feared someone would notice the anxiety she struggled to hide. Later that evening, Amara's father mentioned that only family members and trusted friends had access to the hut. That phrase made several villagers look at Urenna briefly before looking away. It was subtle, but Urenna felt it. Eyes lingered on her a little too long. She forced herself to react with anger, insisting that she would never betray Amara. Even Amara defended her immediately, saying Urenna was like a sister to her. Urenna's stomach twisted painfully at the trust she didn't deserve. Meanwhile, some neighbors whispered about Urenna's recent complaints about her own lack of suitors. Soon, suspicion spread like smoke, thin at first, but growing. Urenna knew she needed to act fast before the scrutiny intensified. That night, she resolved to eliminate any evidence linking her to the crime. But unknown to her, fate had already set things in motion. A single unexpected witness had seen her walking behind Amara's house the previous night. And that person would soon reveal a truth Urenna desperately wanted to bury. The next morning, the village crier announced that anyone with useful information should come forward. Urenna panicked. She barely slept, jumping at every sound. When she walked through the village square, she felt the weight of everyone's eyes. Amara noticed her friend's restlessness and gently touched her shoulder. Urenna, are you okay? You seem troubled. Urenna forced a smile so stiff it almost cracked her face. I'm worried, for you, she lied. Amara squeezed her hand in gratitude, unknowingly tightening the rope of guilt around Urenna's neck. Even Jack approached Urenna, asking if she had seen anything unusual. Urenna shook her head quickly, her throat dry. Later that afternoon, the unexpected witness, a young boy named Kin, told the elders he had seen Urenna near the hut at midnight. Urenna's heart dropped when her name was announced for questioning. She tried to maintain her composure, claiming she went to check on Amara after hearing a noise. But Kin insisted she carried something wrapped in cloth. The crowd murmured dangerously. Amara looked confused, hurt, and unsure. She didn't want to believe her friend could be involved, but doubt crept in. Urenna denied everything fiercely, tears streaming down her face. Her emotional display convinced some, but not all. The elders didn't accuse her openly, but they decided to monitor her closely. Meanwhile, Urenna rushed home, terrified. She removed the money and buried it farther away in the bush, praying nobody would ever find it. But with every step she took, her fear grew stronger. The perfect lie was beginning to crumble, and karma had only just started tightening its grip. Amara spent the next few days in emotional agony. She trusted Urenna with her whole heart, yet the rumors wouldn't stop. Some women suggested that jealousy could make even the closest friends commit wickedness. Amara refused to believe them, insisting that Urenna would never harm her. But late at night, alone with her thoughts, she felt unease creeping in. She remembered the way Urenna's smiles had seemed forced lately, how she sometimes avoided eye contact, and how she always seemed tense whenever the bride price was mentioned. The painful possibility lingered like a shadow she didn't want to face. Still, she clung to hope because losing Urenna would hurt almost as much as losing Jack. Urenna, meanwhile, felt the walls closing in on her. Every interaction felt like an interrogation. She couldn't laugh naturally, couldn't breathe without fear. When Amara visited her one evening, bringing food and trying to comfort her, Urenna nearly broke down. Amara held her hand gently, saying, "No matter what people say, I trust you." Those words pierced Urenna's soul. After Amara left, Urenna sobbed uncontrollably, feeling the full weight of her betrayal. But she also knew confession would destroy her. The consequences would be unbearable: public shame, family disgrace, and the loss of Amara forever. Torn between guilt and fear, Urenna became trapped in a mental prison. She convinced herself that as long as the stolen items remained hidden, she could still escape karma. But life has a way of exposing buried secrets, especially when guilt lives in the heart of the one who buried them. A week later, heavy rain flooded the village paths. The elders paused the investigation because floods made searching difficult. But that same rain pushed Urenna's secret closer to exposure. The clay pot of stolen items she buried near the bush began to loosen as the soaked earth shifted. She didn't know it yet, but the rain had unearthed part of the wrapper she used to hide the money. A group of children playing after the rain noticed something colorful sticking out from the soil. They pulled at it, discovered coins and jewelry wrapped inside, and ran straight to the elders. Urenna's heart almost stopped when she heard the crier summon the entire village urgently. When she arrived at the village square, she saw her wrapper, lying open on the ground with the stolen items beside it. Amara looked at her, confused and horrified. "Urenna, tell me this isn't yours," she whispered. Urenna's lips trembled, no words coming out. The crowd stared, waiting. Her silence spoke louder than any confession. The elders demanded an explanation, but Urenna collapsed to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. She tried to deny it, then tried to explain, then begged for forgiveness, all in one breath. Amara stepped back, tears filling her eyes as reality shattered her heart. The betrayal was deeper than anything she had ever imagined. The girl she called sister had stolen her future, her joy, and her dignity. And at that moment, Urenna realized karma didn't need to wait. It had arrived loudly, publicly, and without mercy. Amara couldn't breathe as she stood before the elders. Everything felt surreal, like a nightmare she wished someone would wake her from. Urenna reached for her, but Amara stepped back sharply, shaking her head. "Why?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "I would have given you anything." Urenna cried violently, grabbing the dust with her hands, begging for forgiveness. But forgiveness felt impossible. The betrayal cut too deep, slicing through years of memories, shared laughs, and whispered dreams. Urenna tried to blame loneliness and jealousy, but her excuses dissolved in the humiliation she had caused. The villagers murmured, shaking their heads in disappointment. Chak watched quietly, his face heavy with sadness. He placed a gentle hand on Amara's shoulder, but she couldn't feel comfort. Everything inside her felt crushed. The elders declared that Urenna's family must compensate Chak's family for the shame caused. They also announced that Urenna would face cleansing rituals for violating sacred trust. As Urenna was led away, her cries echoed through the village. Amara's mother held her daughter tightly, whispering prayers over her trembling body. Amara didn't speak, she just stared blankly at the dusty ground. Her wedding was postponed indefinitely, her dignity trampled, and her heart wounded beyond measure. Urenna's actions had destroyed more than a ceremony, they had destroyed a sisterhood. Urenna and her family faced the full wrath of the village. People whispered when she passed, mothers pointed her out as a warning to their daughters, and children mocked her behind her back. Her father was forced to sell part of their farmland to repay Chak's family. Her mother cried every night, asking where she went wrong in raising her. Urenna lived in constant shame, unable to escape the reality she created. She wanted to apologize to Amara again, but her family forbade it, fearing further humiliation. The once proud girl now walked with her head bowed, afraid of meeting anyone's eyes. Amara tried to move on, but the emotional wound lingered. She couldn't understand how someone she loved so deeply could betray her so easily. Chak visited her often, trying to restore her hope, but even his presence felt heavy. The village women gossiped endlessly, making her feel exposed and pitied. The destroyed wedding plans became the talk of the market, adding salt to her open wounds. She spent most of her days indoors, avoiding public gatherings. Every time she remembered Urenna's tears, her heart twisted painfully. But forgiveness felt impossible. The trust she once treasured had turned into something fragile and broken. The village's harmony had been disrupted, and Amara's life had changed forever. Months passed, and life started to settle again. Amara slowly regained her confidence, focusing on farming and helping her mother. Jack remained by her side, promising that they would rebuild everything. One day, while returning from the stream, Amara overheard two women speaking about Urenna. They mentioned that Urenna had fallen ill and had been bedridden for weeks. The illness was strange, no fever, yet no strength. No pain, yet constant weakness. Some villagers whispered that it was karma or the ancestors' punishment for betrayal. Amara felt a sudden tug in her heart. Despite everything, she worried for her former friend. That evening, Amara asked her mother if she could visit Urenna. Her mother hesitated but allowed it. When Amara entered Urenna's home, she froze. Urenna was drastically thin, her eyes sunken, her voice barely a whisper. Tears filled Urenna's eyes when she saw Amara. "I never wanted this," she muttered weakly. Amara felt her chest tighten, torn between anger and pity. Urenna apologized again, unable to lift her head. Amara listened silently, her heart finally softening. She placed cool water by her bedside and whispered a prayer for her recovery. As she left the house, she realized something profound. Anger had kept her chained, but compassion, even in small doses, brought freedom. Karma had done its work. Amara didn't need revenge. The universe had already balanced the scales. After her visit, Amara felt lighter. She told Chak about Urenna's condition, and though he disapproved of reconnecting, he understood her heart. Amara began visiting Urenna quietly, bringing herbs, food, and comfort. Some villagers criticized her for showing mercy, but others praised her maturity. Urenna's health improved slowly, and with each visit, she spent time reflecting on her actions. The bitterness she once carried faded, replaced with regret and humility. She realized how envy had led her to destroy the person she loved most, and the weight of that truth humbled her deeply. Amara forgave Urenna fully, though trust would take time to rebuild. She encouraged Urenna to face the villagers again, to hold her head up and show remorse with dignity. With Amara's support, Urenna began helping in community chores, often working twice as hard as others. The villagers, seeing her sincerity, gradually softened. Urenna apologized openly during a women's meeting, tears streaming down her face. The elders accepted her humility and released her from further spiritual cleansing. Amara stood beside her the whole time. Their friendship didn't return to what it once was, but a new, honest bond began to form. Healing had finally started to grow in the cracks of their broken sisterhood. With the village restored, Amara and Chak resumed discussing their future. Chak admired Amara's compassion, seeing her strength not only in love but in forgiveness. They planned a simpler wedding, free from unnecessary grandeur. The community offered support, eager to right the wrongs that had wounded them months earlier. Amara felt peace for the first time in a long while. She knew scars remained, but she also knew scars were signs of survival. Urenna, healthier and humble, wished Amara well and vowed to rebuild her life with honesty and gratitude. The new ceremony was small but beautiful. Drums echoed across the village as dancers celebrated. Chak's family brought modest gifts, and Amara's family received them with joy. Urenna attended the ceremony quietly, sitting behind the crowd, tears of relief slipping down her cheeks. Amara noticed her and smiled gently, a silent sign that she held no more bitterness. As Amara and Chak tied their union before the elders, the village rejoiced. The painful chapter was closing, replaced with hope. Urenna's heart ached but also felt free. She had lost much, but she had gained wisdom that would guide her forever. Karma had taught its lesson, and mercy had completed the healing. Months after the wedding, life blossomed anew. Amara and Chike settled into peaceful marriage, building their home with laughter and understanding. Their love deepened, strengthened by the trials they had overcome. Amara often reflected on everything she had endured, the betrayal, the humiliation, the heartbreak, and realized she had emerged stronger. She no longer carried resentment. Instead, she carried gratitude for the lessons learned and the peace she gained from forgiveness. Her marriage flourished beautifully, and soon she became a respected young matron in the village. Urenna, humbled by her journey, found a new purpose. She served in the women's group, helping widows and young girls avoid the mistakes she once made. Slowly, she regained respect within the community. Her transformation inspired others to confront jealousy before it destroyed them. Although she and Amara were no longer inseparable, they remained connected, no longer as perfect friends, but as two women shaped by truth, forgiveness, and growth. Urenna eventually met a gentle trader who appreciated her reformed heart, and though their relationship grew slowly, it carried hope. Both women learned that life rewards honesty and punishes greed in its own time. And in the end, karma didn't just punish, karma also healed, taught, and restored. The village never forgot their story, passing it down as a reminder that betrayal may wound deeply, but forgiveness heals even deeper.